In the AdventureWorks database, there's a table called person.address. Let's create a new query and create a select statement to take a look at the data it contains. I'll just say select star from person.address. I'll execute the query and you'll see that this table stores all 19,000 of the individual street addresses in this database. And one of the columns that it contains is the city with addresses in. Here at the top, we have a whole bunch of addresses that are in the city of Bethel. There are potentially many addresses for each city, but if you scroll through the grid, you will quickly see the rows aren't in order. That makes it easy to view. All of these cities are kind of mixed up. We can add an order by clause to the query to help you visualize the number of addresses in each city. I'll move the closing terminator character, the semicolon, down to the next line and I'll type in order by city. Okay, now I can execute the query and we can scroll through the results and get a feel for all different addresses that are in each city. But to help the database do this work for us and return the answer to the question how many addresses are in each city, we can add the group by clause to the query. The group by clause is going to go after the from clause but before the order by clause. I'll type in group by city on line number 3. Now if I try to execute the query, we are going to get an error here. It says the column person.address.addressId is invalid in the select list because it is not contained in either the aggregate function or in the group by clause. When you run a query that includes the group by clause, every column that you ask in the select clause needs to either be included in the group by clause or in an aggregate function. Since our group by clause only includes the city column, and the asterisk character in the select statement represents every column from the original table, there is lots of columns represented here that aren't included in our group by statement. So we need to clean this up and be more specific about what columns we want returned. Instead of select star or select everything, I'm just going to select the city column. So now the query reads select city from person.address, group by city and order by city. This time when I execute the query, we get the results back. It shows 575 rows, which are unique city names in the database. But we do need to be careful. This is simply grouping each city by the name, and we can run into this issue where multiple cities around the group have the same name. So let's add in a state province ID to the query to separate out cities that might have the same name but in a different state or province. I'll add that into the select clause. I'll say city, state province ID from the person.address table. And then I also need to add the column to the group by clause. This time, when I execute it, it brings us the total of 613 rows. So this is one row for each unique city in the database. Now, at this point you could be thinking, I could have got the same exact information using the select distinct query, and you could be absolutely correct. But what we are not seeing in this result using the group by clause is that each of these rows represents a whole bucket of records. All the 19,000 original rows are still inside of this result, but we are only seeing the group containers in this grid. We could dig into the buckets to start to work with all of the rows inside using the aggregate function. The easiest thing to do would be to count up how many records are in each bucket. To do that, we'll add another column to the select statement. I want to count up all of the records in each bucket, so I'll do that with the count function. I want to count everything, so inside of the parentheses, I'll type in the asterisk. Because this is going to be a third column in the results, make sure you type in a comma here after the state province ID. I'll execute the query. Now we get the third column here, and it displays how many rows are in each bucket. In this case, this represents numbers of addresses in each city. Now it might be interesting to sort the results based off this column, so we can see which city has the most addresses. And while we're at it, let's give this column a proper alias. I'll name this column as count of addresses. Then, instead of ordering by the city, I'll order by the new column count of addresses. I also want this to be in a descending order, so that the count of the highest value appears at the top of the list. Now when I execute it, we are getting some interesting statistics. I can see that the city with most addresses is London at 434. Paris is the second with 398. And I thought this is really interesting. Birmingham, Washington is fifth on the list with 213 addresses. So there is our aggregate query that uses group by clause to group all the rows by a common value, and then count up the number of rows that appear in each group.